Yeah. Prejudice. So what is prejudice? So prejudice is basically the prejudgments, okay, the judgments that we form in our mind. Okay, what are prejudices? So in our society there is diversity, okay, diversity along all the parameters. For example, class, race, color, religion, caste, okay, along all these parameters there are diversities. So because of this diversity, what happens is the people gets divided. Okay, now one community, that is the majority community, that basically it is the general nature of the people. They want to live around the people who share their characteristic. So for example, if you speak Hindi, you will be loving to live with the people who speak Hindi only rather than who speak any other language. Okay, so because of that, what happens in the mind of one community, the feeling of exclusion for the another community comes. Okay, the result of that is that we in our mind basically presupposes something. In our mind we basically build some opinion, we build some presumptions. Okay, so those presumptions are basically called as prejudices. Okay, so prejudice, now what is prejudice? So prejudice is basically, prejudice means judging people negatively without knowing them properly. Okay, it means judging the people, it means we judge them. Okay, हम उन्हें judge करते हैं, ठीक है, बिना जाने हुए, without knowing about them, without knowing the fact, without knowing the reality, what the reality is, we judge them, and that is basically called as prejudice. It is a fixed opinion just by looking at the people, just by seeing the people, what fixed image, not image exactly, but what fixed opinion comes in our mind, those fixed opinions are basically called as prejudices. These are not based upon fact, these are just based upon our presumptions, these are just based upon our morals, whatever there is already in our mind, these are things are based upon that. Okay, now example, what are the examples of prejudice? So examples of prejudice is thinking villagers are backward. So for example, some people, what they do is, whenever they hear anything about villager, in their mind they just come to the conclusion that the villagers are backward, but in reality that's exactly not true. Okay, not exactly, not at all true, because villagers are not at all backward. Okay, so backward is not related to any specific region, it is related to mentality. Okay, so backwardness is not at all specific to any region or to people living in villages. Okay, so for example, the people think that the people who live in cities are selfish, but that's also not true. Okay, so we generalize the opinions. Okay, and that generalization is called as prejudice. Okay, now coming on to next, prejudice about rural and urban areas. Yes, exactly. So there is a prejudice about the rural people, that these are superstitious people. Okay, they majorly believes on superstition. The prejudice is that they do not care about their health, they are backward, they do not use modern technologies. But when we really go to the villages, when we really see the people who are from villages, we get to a very different conclusion, and that different conclusion is that all the things that have been taught to us, that we have already built upon in our mind, is exactly not true. Okay, the prejudice against the urban people is that they are lazy, they are spoiled. Okay, they care only about money, they are cunning, corrupt, they can never be trusted. So these are the general presumptions in the mind of the people, and these presumptions are basically not based on fact, these presumptions are based upon our judgments. Okay, so prejudice oversimplifies the reality. Yes, it is. So the reality is that the people can be selfish even in villages or in cities. So that's the reality. But what people do, they oversimplifies the reality and ignores that there can be differences among individuals. There can be individual level differences. But what they do, they oversimplifies this thing. Okay, so that's a very wrong thing. So from prejudice to discrimination, so when prejudice is put into action, when prejudice is put into reality, what happens is that discrimination happens. Discrimination means we treat people indifferently, we treat people unfairly. Okay, we exclude the people from giving them opportunity. Equality, when we talk about equality, what does equality means? You tell me, you people just tell me, what does equality means? Yes. You are saying this truly. Yes, exactly. You are true. Equity hota hai, but still, what? Okay. Let us assume this thing that equality as a concept exists in the society. Now tell me what kind of equality we want to basically achieve in our society. Yes, yes.
The equal representation.
Okay, right. 1 point. Yes. जिसको जितना, so according to him, जिसको जितना deserving है उतना मिलना चाहिए. Whosoever deserves,
So
they must. Yes.
same rights and same advantages.
Same.
The
Sorry,
same
what do you
rights and same advantages.
see? In our society, we never talk about absolute equality. Because when nature has not created the equality in the society, who are we? Yes, exact. Subhasri, excellent, excellent. The thing is, we never want everyone to earn equally. We never want everyone to basically live in the same house. We never want everyone to basically get the same output. But what we want is that no one shall be denied the opportunity. If for example after class 12 someone wants to become a doctor, some other person wants to become an engineer, we cannot say them that everyone should become just doctor or engineer. But the thing is that equality means no one shall be denied of the opportunity to at least take the side whichever they want. Getting the point? But what happens? The result of prejudice is discrimination, and because of discrimination, we treat people differently, we treat the people unfairly, and the result of which is that the people are excluded from opportunities. The people don't get the opportunities. Getting the point? Are you all able to understand? Respond करते रहा करो. बीच बीच में yes, no, at least speak something. Okay, so that
Yes,
I can
sir.
get to know. हाँ. everyone please, at least in between हाँ ना कुछ लिखो. ठीक है, कोई डाउट पूछो, कुछ बताओ, है ना? Tell me your opinion. Okay. So people may face discrimination because of their religion, gender, caste, disability, region, economic background. So these are the factors due to which the people in our society might face the discrimination, right? Now there is one another concept that is called as stereotype. Okay, so now what does stereotype means? Stereotype का मतलब क्या है? तो स्टीरियोटाइप थोड़ा सा अलग होता है. इट इज अ बिट डिफरेंट फ्रॉम व्हाट वी कॉल प्रेजुडिस. Prejudice is basically the presupposed judgments in our mind regarding the people. But now stereotype is basically it talks about a fixed idea in our mind, right? It talks about some sort of a fixed idea that stays in our mind. Okay, now it passes on from generation to generation. Now, the fixed idea is that some people, now when radicalism in the country is at its peak, what happens in the community I have personally seen is that when terrorism is at its peak in the country, what happens? People, by just looking at the Muslims, they label them by just getting to know that they are Muslim, they just label them as terrorists, right? What happens in the mind of the people? A fixed image develops. Whosoever professing this religion is that. So this kind of thing is called as stereotype. Now a fixed image. Now just coming down to the level, bottom level, when we see mothers. So when I talk about washing utensil, washing clothes, preparing food for the children, sending the children to the school, bringing them back from the school, and basically doing their chores, the image, suddenly when I talked about these things, the image of mother comes, but never the image of father. Getting the point? Only the image of mother comes, right? Why? Because in our society a fixed image of a female is set. Okay, there is a fixed image of a female that is there in the society which says that females are supposed to do these things. So that fixed image or the fixed idea that comes in our mind for a specific group of people is basically called as stereotype. Getting the point? So that is stereotype. Okay, what does it assumes? It assumes that all the people belonging to this particular group are having the same characteristic, right? All the people belonging to this particular group are basically doing this. ठीक है? तो इसमें किसी इंडिविजुअल डिफरेंस को नहीं काउंट किया जाता है इसमें, ठीक है? सो दैट्स बेसिकली स्टीरियोटाइप. ओके, सो नाउ मूविंग अहेड, gender stereotype. So now gender stereotype is very commonly seen in our society. For example, the boys are often seen as strong, brave. They are never expected to be emotional being. They must be good at sports. They must be rowdy. Okay, now when we talk about girls, bachpan se, since their childhood, they are asked to speak softly. They are asked to basically not to shout. They are expected to be emotional being. They must be good at cooking. They must be well behaved, well mannered. Are you able to understand? So these, from since the childhood, the girl is expected to basically sit cross-legged. They cannot expand their legs and sit. Now this is the quality that is basically expected from the girl child, right? So this is called as stereotype. Getting the point? So that's stereotype. Okay. So the reality, what does the reality says? So the reality says that these qualities, what we expect from them, are not biological. They are basically learned through the social conditioning. What does social conditioning stands for? Social conditioning stands for the inculcation of the values in the human being by the society. So it is just the result of the society what the people learn. It is not natural. Okay, boys are taught not to cry. ठीक है, गर्ल्स आर बेसिकली लेबल्ड एज इमोशनल बीइंग. लड़की है, कोई बात नहीं, रो रही है, क्या हो गया? सो it's the girl crying. So what's the problem? What's the big deal in that? Okay, so over the time, boys suppresses their emotion. Okay, so because they are expected not to be emotional, and over the time, girl generalizes the I would say the wrong thing against them. Okay, they generalizes. It is expected. Okay, now coming on to inclusion versus exclusion, these are the two words that is commonly used in GS paper 1 and GS paper 2. It is often used in your answer writing. I cannot see any single answer in GS paper 1, paper 2 and the economic section of paper 3 to write without using these terminologies, inclusion and exclusion. In at least, if there are 20 questions in one paper, in at least 10 questions these words will be used. What does these words means? Inclusion means to include everyone. Inclusion means to take into consideration the needs of everyone, to not miss out any particular group. Okay, whether it be minority, whether it be majority, to basically take into consideration the the wills of everyone, right? Studying together, participating equally, whether it be girl or a boy, right? Respecting all the differences that are there between the communities, between the people, and providing support to everyone whenever it is required. That is called as inclusion, right? And what does exclusion stands for? Exclusion is basically stands for excluding the people. ठीक है, जिनको exclude किया जाता है, the people, the minority, the lower caste, the lower class, okay, the black colored people. So I'm talking about the world circumstances. In India, the racial discrimination is not the popular thing that happens. Okay, so basically the lower caste, the lower class, girls, women, okay, these are excluded. Elderly section, these are excluded, right? Now coming on to inclusive education, what does inclusive education stands for? No, inclusive education stands for the education that creates opportunities for everyone, that doesn't misses out anyone. Okay, inclusive education is the education in which everyone is basically taken care of, whether it be a child, whether it be elderly, whether it be anyone, right? So their needs are taken into consideration. Okay, that is basically called as inclusive education. Okay, now what happens, summarizing everything whatever we have read, that is basically there are differences, we do accept that yes there is diversity due to which there are differences, but these differences gives rise to prejudices. Because of these differences we basically presupposes something, we take into consideration in our mind prejudgments, due to which a fixed image is built in our mind, that is called as stereotype. Stereotype leads to discrimination, and because of discrimination in our society inequality is there. Getting the point? So these are the things which happens in the society, which results into inequality, which is a very negative factor for the development of a country. This is the reason, this inequality is the reason behind the backwardness of the country, behind why we are not able to emerge powerfully and strongly, right? Now coming on to the main point, that is inequality and discrimination. This is a picture that I have taken just from the internet to showcase you how the scriptures that are there, that the religious scriptures have basically contributed to the inequality. This is a pictorial representation of what the religious scriptures talks about. Yes, I do agree on this point that the original scripture that were there were not, have never mentioned these unequal things. Okay, but later on, due to the spread of the Brahmanical culture, these things basically were now written down in the religious books. What does this says? That this is Brahmaji, from the head of Brahmaji born the Brahmins, from the shoulders born the Kshatriyas, from the thighs born the Vaishyas, and from the feet born the Shudras. So this has basically created a layered society. What does layered society means? It means hierarchical society. What does hierarchical society means? It means wherein the upper caste people enjoys all the rights in the society, and the people belonging to the lower caste are denied the opportunities. The people in the lower strata of the society, categorized as Dalits, were denied of the basic right to education, basic right to healthcare, sanitation, livelihood, and any other thing. And all the resources were just concentrated in the hands of the people belonging to the upper caste. Okay, so this now, that was just one example how this inequality has came to entered into in India. Now understanding what does discrimination means. So discrimination basically means when it occurs when people act on the basis of their prejudice or stereotype, when people do not act rationally, when people do not basically act on the basis of reason, on the basis of mind, when people do not apply their mind but just act on the basis of what have been taught to them by the society, on the basis of their social conditioning, not on the basis of the fact, okay, on the reason. So it includes actions such as basically putting the people down, putting the people down not because of merit but because they belong to a certain caste, they belong to a certain class. Okay, now what they do, they deny them job, they prevent them from the standard of living in the society. What they do is basically not allow them. So historically in India this has happened. We have denied the Shudras, the Dalits of not, they were not even having the access to drink water from the same well used by the people of upper caste. They were not at all allowed to basically walk through the roads that were just built for the upper caste people. If any upper caste people was about to enter on the particular road, they used to beat particular drums, so that by just hearing the voice of the drum, any Chandal or any Shudra community person must not come to that place from where the person belonging to the upper caste is walking, so that even the shadow of the lower caste people cannot fall on the upper caste people. If this happened, if this thing happened, the shadow or even touch happened, the upper caste people used to recourse to yajna, havan, to purify them. Okay, that was called as untouchability. Okay, so discrimination happens in all these forms. These are the forms by which discrimination happens. Discrimination is based on diversity also, and another type of discrimination is particularly the discrimination based on inequality. What happens, these are the sources of discrimination. What happens is that discrimination based on diversity is the discrimination that is the result of different religion, race, caste, gender, custom, culture. Okay, so what happens is what is seen as difference can be treated as inferior. Okay, inferiority. So what happens, we know, for example, in the class, what happened, people from different religions sit together. Our mind says that it's very normal that the people from different religion will be sitting, but in society at a macro or at a larger level, what happens is that the people cannot tolerate these differences. What the people do is they basically ignore that we all are human beings, and they start considering the another people belonging to other caste, religion, race, community as inferior to them, right? That is basically discrimination. Now what happens, some differences are not diversity but inequality. Now these are human created, although these are also human created differences, God has never created such differences, but these are basically the economic differences. So discrimination also happens because of the difference in the economic status of the people. Okay, so upper class, lower class, so that class, middle class, mediocre, upper class, है ना, तो ये वाले differences. Okay, now poverty and discrimination. So who are poor? Poor are the people who do not have money, resources, opportunity, food, clothes, shelter. And how poverty leads to discrimination? Now what happens, for example, taking into consideration the circumstances of Delhi, now the person who is poor, who is not having basically good quality house, good quality food, shelter, or anything like that, now what will happen, they will not be able to send their children to good quality education, to take good quality education. They will not be able to send their children to for send their basically family members for good quality treatment to private hospitals. Now this will, what will happen, there is a gap that will emerge. Now upper class, lower class, upper will get everything, lower will be denied of everything. Okay, so this is how poverty leads to discrimination, right? Now there are certain myths and facts. For example, Muslim girl education. So common type of stereotype, common thinking, common stereotype is that Muslims do not send their children or their girls for education. Now this is a stereotype, this is a fixed image that is there in the mind of the people of the community, that the people belonging to the Muslim religion or professing the Muslim religion do not send their girls to for education. Now what happens, but the reality shows that poverty and not religion, the reality is that what happened during partition, when India got partitioned, now during that time, most of the affluent section of the Muslim community, they basically went to Pakistan. Now in India, only two type of Muslims remained. One who were patriot, who loved their motherland, okay, and another who wanted to go but due to economic reasons stayed back in India. Those were basically, and the more number were the basically poor people. Okay, so they remained. Okay, now what happened, because they remained in India itself, now due to that they are majorly poor. Now it is a responsibility of the government to basically intervene and uphold their status. The government failed to do so. So the poverty, not the religion, is the main reason why the people, the Muslim people, do not send their girls for education. Otherwise it is not the religion that stops them from sending their girls to education. It is basically the, yeah, economic aspect. Okay, now example is that, so schools are now in Kerala, we have witnessed in Kerala, the case studies of Kerala says this thing, that even the Muslim or any other religious group always sends their girls for education. Why so? Why the people, Muslim people of Kerala, do not resist their girls from attending the schools? That is because schools are in proximity, schools are very near to their home. The government, basically government transportation is very good there. Okay, so there are many teacher, many female teacher in those schools, they have better access to education. So it is the economic condition that stops them from going to school, it is not the religion. But what is there in our mind, it is that the religion stops them from going to school, right? So that's a very wrong thing. Okay, now caste system and discrimination, I just told you what the caste system stands for. Let me just have some water, एक second. Now, structure of the caste system. What is in India the structure of the caste system? So the society in India is divided into various castes. Okay, so it is arranged like a ladder. I just depicted you in that picture only. So it is like upper caste, then lower caste. Are you all able to understand what I'm saying? Please do respond in the comment section. Okay, comment section, please write. Are you able to understand what I'm saying? Sania?
Sir, can you please repeat? I lost my connection, sir.
I'm asking whether you people are able to understand what I am delivering or not.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I thought Sanya is sleeping. नहीं सो रहे या सो रहे हो?
No,
Lost
sir.
your
We are
connection.
not sleeping, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, होता है ना, ये ऑनलाइन क्लास होती है, people gets bored, है ना? चलो. So structure of the caste system. The society divided into caste. It is arranged like ladder. So the upper caste people are placed at the top of the ladder and the lower caste people are placed at the bottom of the ladder, due to which what happens, untouchability came. Okay, so the people faced so many restrictions. So restrictions, for example, I just told you that people were barred from even entering the house of the upper caste people. They were not allowed to use the resources of the people belonging to the upper caste. They were not even allowed to enter inside the temples. Okay, so these were the problem. Now Dalit, what does Dalit means? Dalit is a word that is derived from the word broken. It means broken. Okay, it is basically the word that is used by the people belonging to the lower caste. It reflects the impact of the centuries of basically discrimination. The government later on, the independent government of the country, categorized them as scheduled caste. Okay, now Dalit, basically the word they prefer, the word Dalits prefer the term Dalit over untouchable because it shows their resistance, it shows their awareness, it shows their assertion of their dignity. Okay, now B.R. Ambedkar, due to his lived experience of discrimination, he fought. Okay, he fought against the ill practices of untouchability. Okay, so now one incident, 1901 Koregaon incident. So that is basically his childhood, the thing he faced in during his childhood. So he was just 9 year old. He as and brother was basically traveling to meet their father. Okay, so station master initially treated them kindly, but when Ambedkar said that they were Mahar, a community, a lower caste community, the station master's behavior suddenly changed. Okay, as told by him in his book. Okay, so the bullock cart drivers refused to carry them. Even double payment was rejected and they were treated as polluting. So that was the incident, due after which he got awareness about what is the reality in the society, because as a 9 year old child he never knew what kind of society he was living in. Okay, after that he basically took the determination to fight against this ill practice of untouchability. Okay, the key lesson learned here is that discrimination denied them. Okay, what they denied them? Transport, respect, dignity. Okay, so now B.R. Ambedkar contribution is that he was born in the Mahar caste and first from his community to complete the higher education. Otherwise no other person in his community could have ever completed their higher education, right? So he became a lawyer. He fought for the rights of the Dalit people and he encouraged the education, supported the government job for Dalits, and led temple entry movement, and later on converted to Buddhism for equality. So he is the chief architect of the Indian Constitution, not the father of the Indian Constitution. No one can be father of the Indian Constitution. No one can be the father of a nation. Okay, so there is no father of nation, there is no father of constitution. He was basically the chairperson of the drafting committee of the Indian Constitution in the Constituent Assembly, and the main purpose who drafted the raw constitution. That's why main architect of the Constitution of India, right? So that is the place that he holds. Okay, so now again, differences exist in the society. Because of these differences, prejudices comes in society. Due to prejudices, discrimination happens. Due to discrimination, inequality comes, and due to inequality, there is always a struggle for equality. The people struggles for getting equality, right? So now next chapter is there, that is equality as a core value of democracy. Don't think, if any of you is thinking that these are very basic things that we already know, but that is not true. You know everything, but basically this is the systematic study. In the first few classes, it is just the beginning. After it, we will be moving on to the higher classes, as told you already. Okay, after that you will be learning very new things mentioned as per the basically theoretical part or the Indian constitution part, right? So India is a democratic country, okay, and democratic country, basically a democracy in any country rests on some credentials. Yes. Huh. As already told you, कितनों ने, how many of you have already started reading that class 11th NCERT? Class 11, two NCERTs are there, political theory and Indian constitution at work. All right, so those two books are excellent and must be read by all of you. How many of you have already started reading it in PDF form only? हाँ जी, no one. Why so? अब कोई नहीं बोलेंगे, देखना. हाँ भाई, anyone?
Sir,
झूठी बोल.
Sir,
हाँ.
I have recently studied class 11th and 12th political science books because I am from humanities stream only.
See, the strategy is very different. Okay, what happens is when you read it for your boards examination, you read it very differently. Okay, so I would again suggest you to just read it. Okay, so ये झूठ ही बोल देते यार कि हाँ पढ़ तो रहे हैं, मैं कौन सा पूछ रहा था कुछ आप लोगों से हैं. कम से कम दिल रखने के लिए झूठ तो बोल दिया करो कि हाँ पढ़ना शुरू तो कर दिया है कम से कम. चलो है ना, एटलीस्ट स्टार्ट है ना. इट्स नेवर टू लेट, इट्स नेवर टू लेट, एटलीस्ट स्टार्ट. गुड सानिया, स्टार्ट इट फ्रॉम टुडे ओनली, है ना. एंड इट इज नॉट लाइक आई एम टीचिंग यू दिस. Ask me anything from the content that you read. You can ask me anything whatsoever you want. Okay, just do ask me anything whatever you read. All right, so there is no
Sir,
restriction on that.
actually, studying from the
आपकी आवाज बहुत कम आ रही है.
sir, actually studying from. I prefer studying from
एक्चुअली
notebooks
क्या?
only. I prefer studying from notebooks, sir, not PDF. So
नहीं यार,
I'm
आवाज नहीं
more.
आ रही. रुको एक सेकंड, एक सेकंड रुको.
So now I'm audible.
नहीं, यहाँ पर ना शायद ऑडियो. हाँ, अभी बोलो एक बार कुछ.
Hello, sir. Hello.
नहीं, एक सेकंड. अब बोलो कुछ.
Hello,
पता नहीं,
sir.
अब बाकी तो आ रही थी यार. आई डोंट नो, आपकी आवाज ना कुछ. एक लास्ट ट्राई करके देखो, फिर आप लिख देना कुछ जो बोल रहे हो. कोई और एक बार, समवन, सम अदर पर्सन स्पीक. पता नहीं how is this happening. Let me just ask to someone to help. हाँ सूरज, एक बार किसी को भेज के देखना है यहाँ पे. वो जो आवाज, जो बच्चे कुछ बोल रहे हैं ना, वो आवाज मेरे तक नहीं आ रही है स्पीकर में. हाँ ओके. Sir, I am saying that we have to read all the topics from that, or there are also other non-important topics. So, in the political theory book, there are few topics that you don't have to read actually. Uh, in the first PPT that I have shared, okay, you have got the PPTs on the official page. नहीं? Check करो एक बार. अच्छा अच्छा. नहीं मिली अभी तक. ओके, आई विल अगेन आस्क देम. सो बेसिकली ई लर्निंग पे या फिर कोई ग्रुप होगा उस पर आपको यू विल गेट द पीपीटीज. ओके, सो आई हैव ऑलरेडी शेयर्ड इट यस्टरडे ओनली, सो दे विल बी सेंडिंग इट टू यू बाय टुडे एंड ऑफ द डे. ओके, सो द थिंग हियर इज कि उसमें जो है मेंशन है चैप्टर्स. एटलीस्ट रीड फर्स्ट, रीड दोस चैप्टर्स. ओके, आफ्टर दैट रीड एनी अदर चैप्टर. ठीक है. इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एट वर्क में तो सारे इंपॉर्टेंट है, वो तो होलसम पढ़नी है. ठीक है. पॉलिटिकल थ्योरी में देयर इज अ टेंडेंसी यू कैन लीव वेरी फ्यू चैप्टर्स, 2-3 छोड़ सकते हो उसमें. हाँ, इसमें कुछ, इसमें स्पीकर में बहुत हल्की हल्की आवाज आई. ओ यस, ये कम कैसे हुआ? अच्छा अच्छा, बोलो एक बार आप सानिया, स्पीक समथिंग.
Hello, sir.
ऑल राइट, थैंक यू. तो हो गया, अब आ रही है आवाज. So, meaning of equality in democracy. So what does equality in democracy means? So basically see, now it is somewhat, I would say कि थोड़ा यहाँ पे there is a bit spiritual angle also. So not spiritual, but yes, some sort of moral angle. Okay, now it says equality in a democracy says that everyone is equal, everyone stands to be equal. So what does everyone equal means everyone has some worth. Okay, now just imagine this. There are two persons. Okay, so for example there are two persons. Okay, so this is person A, let's suppose, and this is person B. So these two person, for example, one is rich, one is poor, one is upper caste, one is lower caste, one is basically a man and another one is women. Okay, so ऐसे केस में, in this case the equality in democracy says that their worth, their intrinsic worth, their intrinsic worth never varies. It says that they all enjoys equal worth. Getting the point? So everyone has equal worth, right? So their worth doesn't varies. They all have equal worth. So that is the equal definition of equality, definition of democracy. Democracy says that everyone should have equal rights and opportunities. No one shall be treated differently. No one shall be treated as inferior or superior. No one shall be treated as high or low. No one shall be treated as upper or lower. Are you getting my point? So that's the original definition
Yes,
Yes,
of
sir.
equality. Yes, all right. ऐसे आता है
sir,
मजा.
but
Speak.
but what is the meaning of intrinsic that you said?
Intrinsic. So just think of it like this. Yes, इससे समझते हैं. ये फॉर एग्जाम्पल एक रिंग है. ठीक है, दिस इज अ रिंग. ओके, नाउ दिस रिंग, इसका जो मेटल है, अब एक रिंग मान के चलो, एक और रिंग, कोई और एक रिंग ले लो जो डुप्लीकेट होती है, प्लास्टिक की होती है. ठीक है, और मानो मैं एक इंजीनियर को बोलता हूं, आई एम जस्ट आस्किंग वन इंजीनियर टू बेसिकली मेक द सेम रिंग. ओके, सेम कॉपी ऑफ दिस रिंग यूजिंग प्लास्टिक. ओके, that plastic ring might just cost 50 rupees, 100 rupees, 200,000 rupees, and this will cost lakhs of rupees, है ना? So what is the difference? The difference is not in the look. The difference is in its inner value. The difference is in the inner value of this metal. Getting the point? Where does the difference rise? Yeah, where is the difference actually? The difference is in the inner value. So can this intrinsic value be there of the human being? Yes. Human being also have some intrinsic value, inner value. बात आ रही है समझ में? Human being has also some inner values. So the point here stands to be that now democracy says the value of this ring or this ring might vary, but the value of human being will never vary. Getting the point? Multiple
Yes, sir.
value of this and this might vary, but the value of human to human value of human to human will never vary. The case of Kanta story. Kanta story tells that Kanta basically, while on the day of voting, so casting vote is a very essential feature of a democracy. So it says that Kanta, while casting her vote, she is basically standing in a queue. And in that queue, she basically observed something. What she observed is that Kanta saw that in the same queue in which she is basically standing, in that queue, a student is also there, a teacher is also there, a government officer is also there, a trader, a unemployed person, everyone is there, and everyone is basically standing in the same queue in which Kanta is standing, right? So this basically is the true definition of equality in democracy. The democracy says that howsoever high or low you be, whenever if you have not turned 18 or you might have turned 18, and your grandparents might be of 60, 70, or might be 80 years of age, when they will also stand in the line of casting vote for polling on the polling day, and you will stand there after turning 18, so you both will be enjoying only one single vote. They cannot claim more vote just because they basically are of more age, are elder to you, or any other criteria. So democracy recognizes the equality in the intrinsic worth of every human being. Prime Minister Modi, because he is a part of executive head of the government, so basically PM Modi is contributing excellently more to the country. Still, when Modi ji will go to Varanasi and will cast his vote, he will just get one vote. Okay, this is how the democracy in the country has recognized this. Okay, and India was one of those very few countries who in the world, at the world level, showed to the world that just on the day when they became independent and basically written down the constitution stated that irrespective of any factor, everyone turning above the age of 21 years will be getting the right to vote. Okay, that was the boldest experiment, but still we survived. Okay, people were just watching and were waiting for India to fail, but we adopted this model and got success in this. Okay, so Indian democratic model is based on universal adult franchisee. Okay, why can't Kanta begin to doubt equality? So now there is one thing, that now the same lady Kanta, who on the day of basically election saw these things, but now what happened? Kanta saw something on daily basis. She basically lives in a slum and there is dirty drain behind her house. Because of the dirty drain, her daughter is always sick and she cannot take leave from the work. She must ask her employer in advance for getting any leave, and she has to wait in long queue at the government hospital. Most people in that area are poor. So this is, but now she in the political aspect. Now, one very important thing that I will tell you, in the political aspect, she is given equality. But what about the social or the economic aspect? What about those aspects? So is she getting that equality, the same equality that she was getting in the political level, at the economic and social level also? Is she getting the same? No, not at all, right? So this is basically a very sad part, right? This is basically a part that we do not want in our country. Okay, so this is sad according to basically our parameters on which we judge a country's democratic credentials. Now what happens is political equality enough if social and economic conditions are unequal? So now there comes a question. Okay, and this chapter is basically very much good for helping you to understand how to write essays. So whenever essay paper, like you have to appear for your essay paper, or if you have to write any article or anything like that, so think everything from these perspectives, right? Think everything from these perspective, like from political perspective, from social perspective, and from economic perspective. Getting the point? Think every parameter from these perspectives. Think like that कि पहले political angle को analyze करो, analyze the political angle first, then analyze the social angle, and then analyze the economic angle. That will enrich your answer, right? So you writing something, Sania, just speak. Why writing? Speak.
No, sir, I just don't want to disturb you in between, so that's why.
नहीं बोलो,
I'm
अरे
just
कुछ नहीं
answering
होता,
the question.
बोलो बोलो. Yes.
Nothing, sir. I'm just answering the question that for perfect
हाँ, yes, a
equality, a
person
person
need.
equality is
Yes,
social and economic.
exactly. हाँ,
That's
आप
why
कुछ कह
he
रहे
is
थे?
considered equal.
Okay, okay. See, yes, this thing happens because around 13,000 aspirant writes the mains paper, है ना? And they have already, from the crowd of 2 lakh aspirants, they have cleared those 13,000 or 12,000 aspirants have cleared the prelims examination. That means they know, है ना? They have knowledge. So when they have knowledge and they sit in the mains examination and they write the mains paper, what happens is that none of their answer is actually wrong. No answer is wrong, right? कोई आंसर गलत नहीं होता. Now what basically puts you to the list of interview or the final recommended list, and what basically brings others out of that list is just the quality. The qualitative aspect basically varies. Okay, that quality aspect is the only determining factor of your selection. And how the quality will be built in you? By reading more books, by reading not more books but standard book, but more times, है ना? Reading all the standard books, by just daily reading the editorial section of the newspaper, whatsoever newspaper be, the Hindu, Indian Express. So that will be a determining factor. Okay, read that Yojana magazine. Okay, you will get something very different from there. If you have optional paper, for example PubMed, PSIR, or law optional, you can just focus on to the World Focus magazine or some articles of World Focus magazine also. That will also help you. So these are the factors that will basically bring you to the list and will basically push the other aspirants out of the list. Okay, so इससे फायदा होगा, है ना? So that will help you. तो देखो अब नाउ पॉलिटिकल इक्वालिटी वर्सेस सोशल इक्वालिटी वर्सेस इकोनॉमिक इक्वालिटी, है ना? तो एंड इकोनॉमिक इक्वालिटी. सो पॉलिटिकल इक्वालिटी बेसिकली मीन्स दैट एवरीवन मस्ट बी गेटिंग द राइट टू वोट. And basically when everyone gets the right to vote, so it is generally a notion that one person one vote must be having one value, right? So this is basically what political equality stands for. Now social and economic equality stands for, so there must not be unequal living conditions. Okay, it is not that everyone must be getting same house, same quality standard of living. No, 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 that's not true, है ना? But everyone must be getting some sort of equal living conditions. Okay, some basic and the fair condition must be met. Okay, unequal access to healthcare must not be there. I'm not just saying that whenever a person gets sick, they must have be having the access to 5-star hotel facilities. No, it's not that. But they must at least be having the access to the basic healthcare facilities. Unequal job security basically must not be there. Everyone must be having job security. Everyone must be having the secure job, that they must be having the assurance that no one can easily, without following proper procedures, can fire them and then deliberately can hire them, right? So that's the thing. Now next is unequal income and dignity. So that is against the social and economic equality. Okay, right? So next is Kanta's story shows that equality exists in law, but in reality, when she witnesses the real life condition, that notion of equality doesn't exist at all. Other forms of inequalities are also there in India. Inequality in India is not just limited to poverty alone. So inequality in India is also caste, religious, gender, occupation, and economic status specific. Okay, inequality is having so many different parameters in our country. So next is equality and the freedom struggle. So what happened? So India's freedom struggle was not just against the British rule. When Gandhiji first came into India, and basically his first public appearance was at Banaras Hindu University, okay, at Varanasi. And in Banaras Hindu University, the first thing that he raised there was not basically, you will be shocked to hear that was basically not the British rule that he first highlighted. First, he highlighted in his speech the disparity between the rich and the poor. This was the problem that was first highlighted by him at his first public appearance. Okay, so this is what we can see by this speech. We can note one thing, that the major problem was this poverty in our country, was this disparity. So all of our Indian freedom struggle was basically not just a struggle against the British rule, but it was also a concerted fight against the caste discrimination, against the gender inequality, and even against the exploitation of the peasants and tribal leaders, okay, tribal groups. Okay, so we fought for equality. Dalits basically demanded dignity and temple entry movement, okay, was there. Women demanded education and rights. Tribal and peasants fought basically against the exploitation. Okay, so equality in the Indian constitution. So how does Indian constitution basically recognized equality? So Indian constitution basically recognized equality by providing people the fundamental rights. Okay, so fundamental rights, now talking about the fundamental right, article 14, equality before the law and equal protection of the law. Article 15, okay, so 16, even 17 and 18 are also directed for equality, right? So these are the articles, part of fundamental right, chapter 3rd, okay. तो उसमें भी there also the talks of equality are there. So according to the constitution, everyone stands to be equal. Okay, untouchability shall be abolished, discrimination should be prohibited, equal opportunities must be guaranteed, and freedom of religion must be ensured. Okay, so in short, so India was declared a secular state. What does secularism means? What is the meaning of a secular credentials of India? So secularism basically means separation of state from the religion. The religion must be personal to the people. The state cannot have any religion. Getting my point? The state cannot have any religious credentials. ठीक है? So for example, India's name is the Republic of India. It is Pakistan who adopted the name the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. It is not India. India respected every religion, right? In India, basically the state has nothing to do with the religion. Just a second, I'm coming. आ रहा था. So yes, in India, what happened is basically uh, all the religions shall be treated equally. Okay, the state has nothing to do with the religion. Religion should be considered as personal to the people, right? So next is basically democracy. Democracy gives rise to equality or based on the credentials of equality. So for protecting the equality, the people rights are given to the people. And in reality, but what happens in reality, we see inequality all around. For basically removing that inequality, basically people start struggle for justice. Okay. Yes. देख लो. Okay. Now we can see recognizing dignity. So now I just told you that everyone has intrinsic worth. Okay. Everyone has intrinsic value, right? Everyone has intrinsic worth, and that worth of every human being in democracy is equal. Okay. सबके पास बराबर intrinsic worth है, right? So now the thing here is that because everyone has intrinsic worth, everyone has dignity, equal dignity. Dignity, what does dignity means? Dignity means आत्मसम्मान जिसको बोलते हैं, self respect, what we call. Okay, that's dignity. Okay, now what is dignity? Dignity means self respect. It means that the feeling of every human being that yes, they are valued. Okay, so we often say to our friend or our parents also that I must be valued, please value me, please value my sentiments, please value what I am saying, है ना? So sometimes we say this thing. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that you as a person, you as a human being must be valued, right? You as a individual must be valued, right? So that's the meaning of value. Okay, now dignity. Okay, so when people are basically treated as lesser than the other people, their dignity is violated, and inequality and discrimination always results in the loss of their dignity. Okay, why are some people treated unequally? Why is there lesser dignity for some and more dignity for other? So people are often treated unequally because of caste they belong, because of their religion, because of their class, economic background, and gender. Okay, male as compared to female are treated superiorly, है ना? And rather than and the female are basically treated inferior. So that is the main issue. Okay, now disability. So due to these factors, disability is basically being imposed on people belonging to one community. Okay, Now, their dignity and caste, Om Prakash Valmiki. So, talking about Om Prakash Valmiki, so this Om Prakash Valmiki person was basically treated unequally because of his caste. Okay, how his dignity was violated? He was basically separated from the other students. He was made to sweep the school. He was treated as inferior. He was denied respect and equality. Okay, and this treatment made him feel lesser than the other people. Okay, and basically hurt his sense of self worth. Okay, being a child he could not resist, but later on basically it was his father who protested and defended his dignity. Okay, so caste discrimination directly attacks the human dignity. Okay, now, dignity and religion, talking about the case of Ansari's family. So, Ansari was discriminated against because of his religion. So, how their dignity was violated? He was refused of houses for rent. Okay, he was not allowed to stay on some other person's property for rent also. He was just because of his name. He was asked to change his name. Okay, now the suggestion to change his name was the attack on his self-respect. Whenever someone says asks him to change his name, it was a direct attack on his self respect, or I would say dignity of that person, right? So they refused to change their name and do this because of accepting it would mean surrendering dignity. Because by changing their name, the person, it would really mean surrendering their dignity, right or not? Yes. So people do not deserve discrimination, right? So neither Om Prakash Valmiki nor Ansaris, they never deserved such kind of treatment what they were given. Every person deserves the same respect regardless of their caste, religion, gender, or class. Okay, so equality in Indian democracy. So what does equality in Indian democracy stands for? India is a democratic country. Okay, the Indian constitution recognizes every person as equal. It applies to everyone: rich, poor, men, women, upper caste, lower caste, everyone, right? Now the reality check, but what exists in India is that inequality still exists, right? But equality is recognized as a principle, but in reality, when we come to on ground reality, inequality exists, right? So equality, so Constitution of India guarantees this thing, that equality before the law should be there. Okay, no discrimination must be there, equal access to public places must be given, and then article 17 of Indian constitution abolishes untouchability. Okay, so these are the things that are basically mentioned in the constitution of the country to ensure equality for everyone, right? Yeah, so next is dignity and self-respect. What was Ambedkar's view with regards to this? So according to Ambedkar, so everyone enjoys self-respect, right? Self-respect must be central to the human life. Okay, every human being must be given self-respect, right? Living without dignity is not at all worth living. Okay, it is even worse than death. If after death all the aspirations of human beings ceases to exist, all the desires of human beings ceases to exist, but when if someone live without dignity, it is even worse than the death. Okay, it is not at all good. Okay, so equality must be based on respect and not charity, and his ideas deeply shaped India's constitution, right? So next is basically equality in other democracies. So when we talk about other democracies, it is not just India that is basically struggling with inequality. It is other countries also. In USA, we can see that the African, during the World War, large scale migration happened, and even before that. So the descendants of the enslaved Africans during the time of colonization, now they were the permanent residents of USA only. Now what the problem was that they faced basically segregation and discrimination in USA. Now they fought against this segregation. Okay, so for example, a bus segregation. So the black people in USA who were the part of USA, so were made to sit on separate seats. They were not having basically the buses to ride on. They were not given the seats which were reserved for the white people in the buses. So that was basically the policy of segregation there. Rosa Parks and civil right movement was a movement that happened. Okay, so what was this movement? So Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat in bus in 1955. So Rosa Parks was the person who basically led this movement. Her action basically sparked a civil right movement in the country. A large scale movement started there in the entire country after Rosa Parks basically did this. So she challenged the racial discrimination, and the outcome was the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which legally ended the policy of segregation in America, in USA. So after that, even yet we can see that America still faces basically this ill element of inequality. Okay, so now this movement, this Black Lives Matter movement, is a very recent movement, just since like past 5 to 7 years. Before that, this movement happened. So it's a very recent movement which we saw at the world level. Okay, Black Lives Matter movement. So that means still the issue of black and white, black discrimination is there in America. So America is a country that also like is fighting from the evil of inequality, right? So now this thing is true that differences exist, but because of differences discrimination happens. Because of this discrimination, the people loses their dignity. Because they loses their dignity, constitution comes and protects and assures them the protection. And because it is constitutional, protection is a result of the social struggle that the people did to basically get these rights, right? Moreover, moving ahead, yeah, this chapter is over, right? So let us move to the next chapter. Yes, differences between the lives of boys and girls. Okay, so gender and identity. So in India, specifically in India, we see that growing up as a boy and a girl is basically very different. Okay, being a boy or a girl is an important part of a person's identity. So now I would tell you a major difference before starting this chapter between gender and sex. Now, what is the main difference between these two words? Gender and sex. Sex means biological. Like when a child is born, so the identity that is given to the child by the doctor, by looking at the organ, the genital of the child, that is basically sex, that is male or female, right? But how the society recognizes that person, what society expects from a person, from that child, what does the society expect? For example, when the girl child is born, so what the society expect from that child is basically its gender. Okay, so for example, male or female, right? So the gender is basically shaped by the societal expectations. The gender is shaped by the social conditionings, right? But the biological thing is sex. So now in India, what happens, being a boy or a girl is an important part of a person's identity. The boys are basically what they cannot decide is their gender, they cannot decide their sex, they cannot decide. Society teaches the boys how to behave, society teaches the girls how to behave, society teaches the boys and the girl what to do and what not to do. Getting the point? So that is basically the social learning. It is called as gender socialization. So what is gender socialization? It is basically what the society teaches the boy or the girl how to behave, how not to behave, what to do, what not to do in the society, right? So that is basically the, I would say, gender and identity. Okay. Now moving ahead, are gender role same everywhere? Is it same for everyone everywhere? No, that is not at all same. To understand these differences, the chapter actually compares two different societies. There is one society of Samoa and another one is basically the society of India, case study of Madhya Pradesh. Okay, so here we will see the different expectations of the people, the different aspirations of the people, how the people differently aspires here. Okay, now for example, for a child to grow in Samoan childhood, so children there do not attend schools. Learning happens just by their older children or the adult. Okay, fishing was very important there. Okay, so role of boy and girl is that both boys and girl look after younger children. Okay, so when the boy and girl reaches a certain age, they have the responsibility to take care about their younger siblings. Okay, so boys basically go out of their home and they start learning the plantation work and the fishing activities. Okay, and the girls basically learns on how to take care about the household activities. Okay, but after teenage year, so basically they enjoys greater freedom, because when they are not at all teenager, even younger than teenager, they are confined to the four walls of the house and just take care about the household activities. Cooking mostly is done by boys in special cooking houses. ठीक है, तो वहां पर ऐसे कुकिंग होती है. एंड गर्ल्स basically what the girls do, so they also fish and work in the plantation and wove basket. So the activities are basically divided according to this, right? So gender role were more flexible compared to many other societies. So ऐसा नहीं है, it is not like that the girls will only have to do this certain work and the boys will only have to do the certain work. ठीक है, so this is not that much watertight. Not the gender roles are not fixed into watertight compartments, right? It is flexible moreover. And growing up as a boy in Madhya Pradesh, we will be learning in the next class. Okay, so from here we will be continuing in the next class. Please do respond once whether everything is clear to you or not, just to let me know.
Yes,
Kanji,
sir. Okay.
all good? Okay, okay, all right, so we'll be doing this in the next class. Okay, okay.
Sir, please provide this PPT today.
Yeah, sure. Will definitely. I have already given, but I will just ask. Go upstairs and we'll just ask them. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Welcome.